Everyone, today I'm going to give you some tips on recording vocals at home. These tips are amazing, they're easy, they're things you can do right now, and you don't have to spend a shit ton of money on stuff you don't need. So anyways, here we go, and roll title. Okay, so I can't find my notes. I'm going to wing this one, but here we go. So quick story. When I started recording in my parents' basement. I took over a couple rooms. I didn't have a lot of gear. I had a few cheap microphones. I was recording in like a 46, maybe a Pentium. I don't even know. I was using a PA system for my preamps, and it was horrible. But I was very self-conscious about my gear. I felt I was getting shitty recordings because I didn't have the proper gear. And the truth was that wasn't the case at all. It was I just didn't have the technique yet. I didn't understand some fundamental concepts when it came to recording, especially vocals. When we're dealing with recording vocals at home, it's different than in a studio. Homes could be noisy. Homes have weird room set up, so you always got to kind of deal with it. But you can also get some amazing sounds out of recording in a home versus a studio, just by experimenting. So here's a couple tips that I'm going to recommend. If you follow these tips, it'll just take your vocals to the next level. Tip one. That's tip one. Tip one is microphone. Picking a microphone that suits your environment, all right? So it's very common that you want to pick the microphone for the singer, and that's normally the case in the studio. We would set up different microphones and find which microphone is best for the singer, but that's because we're working in a controlled environment. Homes aren't like that. If you have a very noisy home, like I do, using a microphone like a condenser microphone might not be the greatest option because of the sensitivity of the microphone. It'll pick up all the cars driving by. I live downtown, so this is a common issue. I use a dynamic microphone. In fact, I use the Shure SM7B quite a bit. It's not as sensitive. I can aim it away from any noisy areas. It's a good sounding microphone. I really enjoy it. So it's not a microphone that's gonna break your bank. Point number two is know the spaces in your house, right? You have the ability now to record in multiple rooms in your house, and they're all gonna be very, very different. There's two factors you have to be aware of when recording in a space, especially in a house. The first one is noise. In an old house like this, noise is inevitable. I can spend $100 kajillion on treating this place, but it's not worth it. What I gotta do is I gotta find rooms in the house that aren't as noisy. So maybe recording by my big window here that's facing a busy street isn't the greatest idea. Maybe if I move into a different room, like my living room or my bedroom farther in the house, maybe that's something I should do just to eliminate as much noise as possible, because that's always gonna be a factor. The second thing you gotta be aware of, and this has to do with now any kind of recording situation, is understanding comb filtering and start to practice hearing what that is. All right. So this is what comb filtering is. If you take a sound or a signal and you duplicate that signal and then you delay that signal and sum those two signals together, weird things start to happen. They start to constructive and destructive interference will occur. This is it in a practical term. If I'm singing into a microphone, I have my original source going straight into the microphone, but I also have sound traveling in other directions and bouncing off those walls and coming back at that microphone at delayed times. What happens is that signal is summed or added together in the microphone, and all of a sudden you start to hear like a phasey sound, or something gets really, really boomy or whatever. This is constructive and destructive interference. This is comb filtering. This is inevitable in any recording situation. No matter where you are, it will always happen because we live in a physical world. The way you can deal with this is you can hang up a ton of absorption, and that's what an ISO booth is. It's really just a series of absorption and diffusion setups that eliminate those reflections as much as possible in the microphone, which is cool. Or you can just take the microphone and move it away from the center of your room, move it to a side, try to break up as much parallelness as much as possible. This was a really cool thing. Back to my story at the beginning, when I recorded at my parents' house, my main room was actually my parents' like junk room, right? So they had a bunch of shit everywhere. But the thing that was great is it broke up all the parallelness in that room, and it was actually a really, really great room to work in. So if you're recording in your bedroom, mess it up. I told you to do it. Mess up your room. It's for sound. It's for your profession. Just by having a bunch of stuff that breaks up those reflections minimizes the amount of comb filtering. Now, comb filtering is the sound of a space. Like the reason why my bathroom sounds different than this room is because there's harder surfaces, there's more reflections, blah, 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 blah. My tip 3, what's my tip 3? Distance. All right. So distance is an important thing when setting up a microphone. Set up the Singer, I would say about 12 inches, a foot away from the mic starting, and then about 6 inches set the pop filter, and then start with that starting point. That's a good rule of thumb. If you're too close, the proximity effect kicks in, and this is an exaggeration of lower frequencies. If you want to hear what this sounds like, just take your hand and move it close to your face and talk, and you'll hear the proximity effect kick in. If you're too close to the microphone and you move as a singer, you are going to notice that in the recording, whereas if you're farther back, you won't notice it as much. If you're too far back, you're going to start to hear more of those reflections now bleeding into the microphone, and they might actually start to compete on a level with the vocalist, which isn't really ideal. So you want to keep it, you want to find that sweet spot, and I would say about 8 to 12 inches is roughly where you want to be. Tip number 4, watch your levels. So what I mean by this is when you're going into the preamp, don't boost it to the brink of clipping. Give yourself quite a bit of headroom there. And the reason why is if you have headroom for when you're mixing, you'll be able to do more with it. Any of your noise floor, like if there's somebody talking or there's cars in the background, if you're recording it really, really high, when you compress it for the mix and boost it even more, all of a sudden the people talking in the background, your brother making noise, the cars driving by, that all becomes very apparent in the mix. Less is always more. If you can get it to a workable level at the tracking, you'll be able to do more with it in the mixing stage. Tip number 5 is set the mood. And what I mean by that is, now that you have the space, make it comfortable for you to work in, or make it comfortable for your singer to work in. If you have to light candles and lower the lights, do it. Make sure you have a lot of water on hand, stuff like that. And that's something I think that's really special to home recordings, is that we can customize it so much more to our own personal needs than at a recording studio that you're paying an hourly rate. And those are my 5 tips for vocal recording at home. So if you liked this video and you thought it was helpful, please like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Also, you have a chance to win a Smooth Q stabilizer, which is awesome. I did a review on it last week. So basically the way you enter is go to my Smooth Q review video and like it, subscribe to my page, leave a comment on that video, and when I hit 100 subscribers, I'm going to do a draw. And if you liked it and subscribed and did all the steps that I put in the video, then you have a chance to win. I have an Instagram, I have Facebook, Twitter, all that stuff. So thank you very much, and I will be bugging you guys soon. Ciao.